JP, good to see you, brother. How you doing? Evening. You're the first one in today. How you doing, brother? Funky brother, good to see you as well. How you doing? Good evening, brother Miles. How you doing? Harris, good evening, Miles. Good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Hi, Miles and CMF. George, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Miles, how are you, man? I'm doing better. Good to see you as well. How you doing, Theos? How you been? Hi, Miles. How you feeling? Any better? A little bit better, I would have to say. Hello, Miles. Scott, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Dennis, hi, Miles and CMF. Good to see you as well. Dennis, how you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Callie, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? How you feeling, Miles? A little bit better, funky brother. How you feeling today? Scott, I'm feeling a little bit better. Good to see you. How you doing? How you feeling? How's everyone doing today? Please explain about these values through. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Free and forever. Good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Explain which values. Scott, which values should I explain? Yes, sir. Miles, how you doing? Davey, good to see you as well. How you been? How's things? Okay, let's do You Are Looking Better. Let's go. Thank you, JB, for that, brother. So let's do a breakdown of what we're going to be talking about tonight's live. But let me do the intro as well, then the disclaimer. So if you're watching this for the first time ever, welcome to the CMF Live. Welcome to the CMF Live. If you watch this for the first time ever, the CMF stands for Crypto Mouse Family. My name is Miles. I go by the persona of Crypto Mouse, and I'm the host of this live Monday to Friday, 11:25 p.m. UK time onwards. And I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, vital information for you to know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. Now, the disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And we also do live Q&As on this live as well, which means if you do have any questions, put it outside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. Now, let me give you a breakdown of what we're going to be talking through essentially on tonight's live. We're going to be talking about Scott Bennett, being essentially commended as the U.S. Treasury Secretary, is extremely bullish for the crypto space moving forward, especially inside the United States. Then we're going to be talking about tonight's live regarding MetaPlanet, which is a Japanese company that's been following the footsteps of essentially MicroStrategy, the blueprint that they left behind regarding essentially buying assets in terms of Bitcoin added to the Treasury. Then we're going to be talking about tonight's live regarding ClearSpark, essentially giving a signal of a buy signal. Now, that is not financial advice in any sort of a way, but it is a personal opinion that is coming from essentially CleanSpark for a strong buy inside the market space. Then we're going to be talking about tonight's live regarding the Fed meeting, which is supposed to be happening. But within the next 24 hours, we should have some sort of a response from the Feds on rate cuts. Are we going to have rate cuts or not? If we don't have rate cuts, it's not really positive for the crypto space. If we do have rate cuts, it's extremely positive for the crypto space. So Jerome's Powell's speech is going to be moving the crypto space either way for a short period of time. Then we're going to be talking about tonight's live regarding France. On this live yesterday, I revealed that France essentially is thinking about doing unrealized capital gains tax, which means even if you do hold your cryptocurrencies and do not sell, you could still be liable to pay taxes, which will essentially force a lot of people just to sell off their cryptocurrencies and get trapped in CBDCs. Well, we do have some updates on other things that France is trying to do to raise money for their own country. Then we're also going to be going for tonight's live regarding Crypto.com, which is pretty much the last exchange to delist USDT inside the EU. And if any other exchange still hasn't delisted USDT, they are going to be doing that by the end of this month, because that is the final essentially limit. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live regarding the renowned founder, essentially, that came out and essentially stated 5 reasons why the United States will have a Bitcoin reserve strategic essentially asset or wallet in some sort of a way. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live regarding the matters of Senator Cynthia Luminous coming out and essentially stating that we need to have clear guidance inside the crypto space ASAP. And she's also backing Coinbase with their essentially battle with the SEC. We're also going to go through on tonight's live regarding matters of Sui, a crypto project which everybody is pretty much familiar with. Sui has been able to, well, some developers on Sui have been able to make payments without using the internet by just pretty much using SMS, in other words, text. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live regarding Elon Musk in terms of his X platform becoming everything app, and which platform has been finally chosen to conduct any sort of transactions on X moving forward. We're also going to be talking about another company that has just filed 10 ETFs on tonight's live as well. We're also going to be talking about how Ripple essentially and Ondo are coming together and what essentially that entails going forward. We're also going to be talking about Ripple's essentially executives coming out and stating how they think things are going to be playing out as we move forward in terms of this whole, is it going to be a Bitcoin reserve or an XRP reserve, or a level playing field, and so on. We're also going to be talking about tonight's live regarding more Ripple news towards the end of the live. So those are the news topics we are going to be going through. And the first one we are going to be going through is the person that has been chosen essentially to lead the United States in terms of the Treasury Secretary, who is incredibly pro-crypto. But before we go through that news, just want to say let's go through the comment section first, and then we go straight through that news. I just also want to say thank you so much to everybody that's liking this live right now on X, because I'm getting notifications from X. Thank you so much to everyone who's liked this live. Essentially, thanks so much to everyone that's retweeted this live on X, and also put a comment outside the live on X as well. Thanks so much to everyone who's liking this live right now on YouTube, and also putting a comment outside the live as well. Now, before we go through the first news, which is regarding Scott essentially being confirmed as essentially the Secretary, Treasury Secretary, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go straight into the first news. And then we go comments, news, back and forward. And as I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, put it outside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. So let's go inside the comment section first. We were at here. We are all sideways. For the time being, yes. I did make a post essentially a few days ago when I said the market's first going to go down, then sideways, and then back up in the most simplest way I put it. Right now, we're in sideways stage. Hello, Miles. T, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Hi, Miles and family. Hope all is good. Troy, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? The value of XRP versus the actual price. There's no difference. Up, down, or sideways. Is it true XRP case is over? It's not. Technically, the XRP case should be over, but is the XRP case over? Okay, let me say this. The reason why a lot of people on X have assumed that the XRP case is over is because Ripple is not listed essentially on the litigations in the SEC website. However, Ripple is technically listed on the appeal section, apparently according to one source. So is the case technically over? No, it's not really over, but it will be very soon this year. Very soon. Let's see where we are also at. How are you feeling today? A little bit better, Scott. Feeling a little bit better. Looking more like Miles today. Let's go, Scott. Share the live. Let's go, Scott. Good day, Miles and CMF. Mike, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good morning, Miles and CMF. Hope you're doing great. Solomon, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Orphan, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Yeehaw. Evening, Sir Miles. Gents and ladies, let's go, Crypto Cowboy. How you doing? Evening, Miles and CMF. Joe, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Evening, Miles and CMF. Pierce, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hi, hi guys, everyone. Kirit, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? I think a lot of countries are going to start thinking about XRP as a reserve as well as other assets. Facts. The more essentially, once the US does launch a crypto reserve, which is what they're going to be launching, not a Bitcoin reserve. If the US was going to launch a Bitcoin reserve, they would have stated essentially in the executive order a Bitcoin reserve, but instead they essentially listed it as a digital asset reserve. So the idea that, if, the United States, when they do come up with their crypto reserve, their crypto portfolio, in other words, and they have essentially XRP in it, which makes a lot of sense for them to have, then yes, the rest of the world 100% will be following America's footsteps, and the rest of the world will also be creating whatever America has inside their crypto portfolios, in that sense, XRP. Facts. Let's go, JP. Is Coinbase wallet safe in your opinion, Miles? Is Coinbase wallet safe? It's safe up to a certain extent, but not 100% safe. I wouldn't say that. Miles, why always pump and dumps? That's just how the market works. That could be the crypto market or the stock market. The market in general never continues going up and never continues going down. It goes up and down. So that's why it makes it unpredictable and essentially not that easy for everybody to make a quick buck. Miles, will XDC essentially be on is XDC safe as a project? Yes, same level as XLM in terms of price. It's a possibility. Consider variable changes, what I would say, but XDC is going to do incredible price points as well. Even Miles and family, Ian, good to see you. How you doing, Ian? How you been? Even Miles and CMF peeps, Semper, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? English or Evening, Miles of CMF. Hope all is well on this glorious Tuesday. All love from Texas. Let's go, Ray. How you doing? Morning, Miles. Rachel, good to see you as well. How you doing? Morning. Miles, Crypto Hawk saying is in future you will need XRP to buy XDC and very hard to get XDC. Everybody's entitled to an opinion, but opinions are not correct and facts are facts. If it turns out the Bijou is a fact, most likely right now staying as opinion. Sorry, Miles, what would be more safe than Coinbase wallet in your opinion? Trust wallet. But then again, still, Trust wallet is still is safe up to a certain extent. Okay, when I said Coinbase wallet is safe up to a certain extent, I didn't mean it's just referring to Coinbase wallet. Hot wallets in general are safe up to a certain extent. So Coinbase wallet, Trust wallet, Crypto.com, Dex wallet, and so on. The rest of the hot wallets in general, they're all safe up to a certain extent. They're not 100% safe, is what I'm trying to say. So it's not just Coinbase wallet in general, is what I was trying to say. But in general, they're all safe up to a certain extent. But Coinbase is safer than some. Go, but let's go. Good evening, Miles and all CMF. I hope everyone is well. Adi, good to see you. How you doing, Adi? How you been? So XDC, not best coin. XDC is a great project. If you want to look into it, it's an amazing project. How can I find another coin by the fraction of the pennies? Go and search inside the meme coin section. It's not recommended any sort of a way. Not recommended in any sort of a way regarding meme coins. But if you do want to go for project's fraction of a penny, then you got to go fishing inside the meme coin section. It's not recommended. Not financial advice at all. Is 1,000 XDC a good number? Yes. If you have a 1,000 XDC in your wallet, it's good amounts. Long-term growth. Is Decent safe? Safe is a cold wallet in that sense. Yes, it's safe. But again, still safe up to a certain extent. It just depends on how you safeguard yourself. But it's a cold wallet, so yes. Hi, Miles. Pablo, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Is connecting Phantom with Ledger more safe than connecting your Phantom to your Ledger? Is that safe? It's not recommended. I wouldn't do that personally. Keeping your Ledger or your Tangent or your cold storage wallets offline, the more you can, the better it is. The less you connect your essentially your ledgers, your tangibles to the DeFi space, the better it is. One of the reasons why Ledger once became compromised and a few wallets became compromised from within Ledger is because there was an app inside the DeFi space, essentially, that people were connecting their Ledger wallets to, and their Ledger wallets got compromised. Not a huge amount of people got compromised, but some did. A very small minority of people got essentially compromised within Ledger because they would keep on connecting their wallets to different DeFi apps and so on. And one of those decided to, one of those apps was Slack malware. So it's not recommended to keep on connecting your ledgers or your tangibles essentially to your cold storage wallets to any section of the DeFi space. Not recommended, but if you want to do it, please be safe and please make sure it's a legitimate platform. In this sense, Phantom is a legitimate platform, but still be careful. How comes there was not a lot of movement in XRP after Brad's announcement yesterday? Thank you, Miles. No problem, Joe's, anytime. How come there was not enough movement in XRP after Brad's announcement yesterday? Brad's announcement yesterday was regarding level playing field. He's going to have some sort of announcement essentially today and so on. Well, the biggest move we're going to get from XRP isn't going to be, no offense to anybody, but Personal preference will get the market space up to a certain extent. Now, this could be a CEO, executive of a company, or whatever. What is actually going to move the market space right now is going to be regulations, and the case is getting dropped. So a personal preference from a CEO or executive of any company inside the blockchain sector will move the price up, a little bit of any crypto project. But what we really need is the cases to be dropped. That's the bigger movement, and also the regulations, which is even the bigger movement. That is what's going to make the market space move. Voices of CEOs and executive board, executive and board members and so on, and CFOs will move the price of a crypto project for a small period of time, a day maybe, or so on. But if the SEC comes out and today announces we're dropping the lawsuits and we're going to do settlements of all legitimate cases and no fraudulent ones, then the market will move hefty. If the SEC comes out with the CFTC and says we're going to be coming up with the regulations this week, then the market will move a lot more higher. But executive and CFOs and CTOs and CEOs will move the price of a crypto project a short period of time. Because that's the bigger focus right now. The bigger focus right now is regulations. Because since the executive order essentially has been signed, since the executive order from Donald Trump has been signed for the United States to become the capital of cryptocurrencies, and a crypto task force was created overnight the moment Gary Gensler left with the SEC. So that's where the stage we're at right now, essentially. The regulations is what's going to really move the market space. That's what we're waiting for. The SEC has had a closed door meeting, essentially. The CFTC is going to be having an open public meeting, essentially a roundtable, which is an interesting way to do it. But yeah, essentially. So right now, the regulations are what mostly going to move the market space compared to voices from executives and CEOs and CTOs and CFOs. Back at you. Let's go, Scott. So, Scott. Not the Scott inside the comment section, but the other Scott that has been chosen and confirmed as the US Treasury Secretary, essentially, signaling a massive pro-crypto stance. So the major news, one of the major news that came outside of the United States today was this. The US Senate confirmed billionaire hedge fund manager Scott Benson as Treasury Secretary with 68 to 29 votes today. According to retainers, notably 16 Democrats also sided with the Republicans to support the nomination, representing a significant victory for President Donald Trump's administration. Scott Benson, a 62-year-old from Tennessee, is a staunch supporter of Trump's economic policies, including the renewal of the $4 trillion in expiring tax cuts, the imposition of essentially tariffs, and the expansion essentially of domestic oil productions. During his essentially confirmation hearing, Scott Benson has expressed concerns over government spendings, calling it out of control, and dismissed fears that Trump's essentially policies would trigger inflation in any sort of a way, because Trump's policies are not going to be triggering inflation in any sort of a way. Inflation will still be there, but it wouldn't be drastic as it was essentially under Biden's administration of circus freaks. Trump is trying to control that inflation. It is very difficult, but he is trying to do it. I mean, what Biden's administration, the way they left the country was America was standing on its last leg. Trump came in essentially signing executive orders back to back, trying to save the United States, and he is doing that, to be fairly honest. Now, in his new role, Scott Benson will also essentially oversee critical aspects of the U.S. policies, including tax collections, the $28 trillion Treasury debt market, financial regulations, and international economic essentially measures. His confirmation essentially sparked interest in cryptocurrencies due to his outspoken pro-crypto stance. Ripple's CEO, for example, Brad, congratulated Scott Benson on his social media platform X, expressing confidence essentially in Scott's ability to foster growth in US technology and cryptocurrency innovation. Scott Benson has been essentially been very vocal about his opposition to central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, calling it unnecessary for the United States. During his essentially January 16th Senate Finance Committee hearing, he argued that CBDCs are essentially more suited to nations with limited investment alternatives, referring to them essentially as a measure token out of necessity. Now, in 2024, an interview with Fox Business, Scott Benson essentially praised Trump's supporter for cryptocurrencies, describing essentially as aligned with the Republican Party's values, essentially of freedom and innovation. He added that crypto is about freedom and the crypto economy is here to stay and is going nowhere. Meanwhile, essentially, Texas moved closer to solidifying its relationships inside the digital economy. Senator Charles essentially introduced the Senate Bill 778, the SB77 essentially 8, which proposed the creation of a Bitcoin reserve. If passed, Texas would become the first US state to have essentially a Bitcoin wallet, for example, a Bitcoin reserve asset. But going back to essentially Scott being chosen as the US Treasury Secretary, it's incredible because we can definitely see that the United States is moving to a very, very crypto environment, as you could say, because it might not seem like that to a lot of people inside the crypto space. A lot of people are waiting for the market space to shoot up ASAP. And some people are worried that Trump hasn't done anything. Some people are, standing on the sidelines and thinking maybe Trump hasn't done anything or achieved anything so far. And, he's not helping the crypto space in any sort of a way. But he is. Now, the prices of your assets maybe haven't moved. But what Trump is doing is pretty much laying in the foundation for the crypto space to be able to thrive inside the United States. And by the foundation, I mean SEC Chairman Gary Gensler was essentially SEC Chairman Gary Gensler resigned. That's pro-crypto, what Trump was able to achieve. Replacing him with Mark as the acting chairman, pro-crypto. Creating a crypto task force and putting Hester Pearce in charge from the SEC is essentially pro-crypto. Overnight, they did this. And then the SEC having a closed-door meeting discussing how the SEC went wrong, pro-crypto. CFTC Chairman Rostam Benham essentially resigning only because he thought he wasn't a good candidate for essentially be able to lead this crypto space is essentially pro-crypto because the person replacing him is pro-crypto. FDIC Chairman, someone that was stifling banks inside the United States, essentially working with crypto companies, he also resigned. He's getting replaced by somebody that's pro-crypto. So in every aspect, Trump is actually helping the crypto space. It just can't be seen now because the prices of your crypto projects aren't moving. But Trump is laying in the foundation so your crypto projects can move and stay up. That's what he's trying to achieve, the simplest way to put it. He's trying to lay in the foundation by essentially new SEC, new CFTC, new FDIC, rules and regulations, removing essentially the SAB 121, which was removed already. All he has achieved so far, and this is about a week in, he's achieved so much. But all he's doing right now is laying in the foundation, is what Trump is doing. And by this new essentially candidate chosen as the US Treasury Secretary, another pro-crypto essentially candidate being chosen for a very high-profile place to have a very loud voice inside the crypto space in the United States. So what Trump is right now doing is genuinely laying in the foundation. The prices of the crypto projects might not have moved as much since Trump has came into power, but they're going to move very soon once those regulations start pouring through. He just needs to lay the foundation first, because you got to remember the US was 11th. Chain Analysis did a report of top countries inside the crypto space. Singapore was ranking number 1 as the number 1 country for crypto regulations, crypto innovation, and so on. Then second was ranking with Dubai essentially and Hong Kong, and then third was ranking essentially India and so on. And the list just goes on. And then 11th was the United States because they had 0 regulations, 0 innovation, just suing every crypto company. So Trump has, essentially came in and trying to lay the foundation first. The US is, what I'm trying to say in the simplest ways, the US didn't even have a foundation for the crypto space. So first he needs to, level the playing field and then bring out the regulations and then make the market move and so on and so on. He's literally starting from 0 to get the US to somewhere where they can bring the regulations out. And that's, if you want to thank anybody, for that, is you got to thank the, being very sarcastic here, but you got to thank the Biden administration of circus freaks for achieving nothing for 4 years in every category, while Trump is trying to do everything for them. Now, Metaplanet, a company essentially taking, following the footsteps of MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy laid the foundation of, the whole Bitcoin reserve idea. It was the first company to create a Bitcoin reserve, backing it with their MSTO stock on the open marketplace and so on. And everybody knows Michael Saylor. He's been buying back-to-back non-stop, and he's betting on the idea of a Bitcoin reserve created by the United States, so his company can become $1 trillion company one day somewhere down the line. Well, Metaplanet is the Japanese version of MicroStrategy. And Metaplanet has been buying $2 million essentially worth of Bitcoin, $5 million worth of Bitcoin. The highest they ever had was $15 million worth of Bitcoin. Well, things are about to change because essentially the equivalent Japanese version of MicroStrategy, Metaplanet, is going to be raising $745 million for a massive Bitcoin buy. Japanese investment firm Metaplanet plans to raise 116 billion yen, which is $745.5 million, to buy additional Bitcoin. The company will issue 21 million shares of essentially at a 0% discount on warrants, giving holders the right to buy essentially Metaplanet shares at an incredible price, essentially. If completed, the company claims this would essentially represent the largest capital essentially raise in Asian equity markets in terms of history, when it comes to Bitcoin's history in the Asian market space. Metaplanet essentially cited that yen's weakening value against the US dollar, currently nearing an exchange rate of essentially 160 yen, as a primary driver for the move. In a statement, the company said such circumstances have led us to raise funds and purchase Bitcoin as quickly as possible. Now, this announcement comes shortly after Bitcoin essentially reached all-time highs in January 2025 in terms of trading price points, and Metaplanet adapted essentially this growth standard in April 2024, and also has seen a rapid growth since essentially the Japanese market space has taken off due to this one company. And there are a few other small companies in Japan following the footsteps of Metaplanet also. Now, the firm's last Bitcoin essentially purchase essentially was in December, and it added 619 Bitcoins for 9.5 billion yen, which is around $60.6 million. But this one is the biggest essentially raise they're doing to date, $755.5 million they're raising to buy more Bitcoin. Metaplanet's growing Bitcoin portfolio remains modest compared to the essentially of MicroStrategy, with the largest public corporate essentially Bitcoin holder, which owns 439,000 Bitcoins. Last month, the firm partnered with SBI VC Trade, the crypto arm of essentially SBI Group, to access compliant corporate essentially crypto custody services. And Metaplanet's CEO Simon said that the partnership will support Metaplanet's Bitcoin accumulation strategy by engaging with key stakeholders in Japan. Metaplanet has added that access to a compliant corporate essentially custody service is a critical component of their partnership, which prioritizes tax efficiencies and considers using Bitcoin as a collateral. So Metaplanet is about to be doing their #1 biggest purchase ever of Bitcoin. They want to become the biggest, corporate holder in the Japanese market space when it comes to Bitcoin, and they're raising $754.5 million, which is incredible. Now, moving on essentially from Metaplanet to CleanSpark. But before we go through the CleanSpark news, let's go inside the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer the questions you may have. Let's go inside the comment section first, and then we'll go straight into the CleanSpark news. So let's see where we were at. We were at here. Good morning, Miles and CMF. Go Spinner. Good to see you. Well, how you doing? Morning. All facts. Thank God Trump won. No more circus freaks running the show anymore. Facts. Absolutely facts. Just think Trump is doing what Ripple was doing when they were signing contracts behind closed doors. Pretty much perfect way to sum it up. Thank God Donald Trump won. Crypto Miles. Let's go, Davey. Miles, the BTC maxis have had their parties and have had their panties in a bunch lately. I agree, Tony. The Bitcoin maxis are not happy that they have to share, the crypto space with the rest of the crypto space, ironically. But yeah, the Bitcoin maxis are not happy. But who cares about the Bitcoin maxis, to be fairly honest? I prefer as essentially Brad put it, the CEO of Ripple, a level playing field for the entire crypto space. Forget about this whole stifle this crypto project and stifle that crypto project. How about essentially we create a level playing field, and let's just see who's the last man standing. Because that is what essentially Bitcoin maxis are afraid of. Because if we create a level playing field for every crypto project, then let's see who's the last man standing. Which project is going to be the last one standing? Now, obviously, there's going to be a multitude of projects standing, but which one is going to have a bigger control or a bigger market share? But Bitcoin maxis don't want level playing fields because, well, if it's a level playing field, you know what's going to happen. Bill HR 25 has been introduced to the House to abolish income taxes and other taxes inside the United States. Trump is the man. Let's go, Stormy. Thank you for the update as well on that bill. And Stormy, thanks so much for tagging the bill inside the comment section as well. Absolutely amazing. I hope the UK will also ban capital gains tax. I hope so as well. France is the only country thinking about introducing a capital gains, an unrealized capital gains tax, which means if you hold the cryptocurrencies, you could still be liable for taxes in France, which is what they're looking into. One stage has already been passed. Follow US footsteps. Yeah, I hope the UK follows the US's footsteps ASAP, because the UK, I don't know where it's standing right now. LTC, Litecoin, in other words, is a sleeping giant. Let's go boost. How you doing? And we need Trump in the UK. Definitely. We need Trump everywhere. I'll be honest. We need Trump everywhere. What's the last day after which you sell or keep all of your assets or crypto? What's the last day? Well, let me tell you this. It's difficult to say. So your question of what's the last day after which you sell all your assets of your crypto space is difficult to say, because we can't compare historic market spaces to this. The reason why we can't compare historic market spaces to this is because we've never had rules and regulations. We've never had essentially an SEC that is pro-crypto bringing out regulations, or the CFTC bringing out regulations, or banks essentially working with the crypto space, or the biggest market space in the world, the United States, become the capital of cryptocurrencies. None of these things have ever happened in the past for us to be able to compare the market space and go, well, the market did this back in the in the previous bull run, so the market's going to do the exact same thing in this bull run. Wrong, because all the things that we have this time around regarding ETFs, essentially, regarding ETPs, regarding SEC rules and regulations, regarding CFTC rules and regulations, regarding the US becoming the capital of cryptocurrencies, which is the biggest market space in the world, which also means the rest of the world will also follow their footsteps in creating whatever crypto reserve they do create. A lot of things to factor in regarding banks essentially being able to work with the crypto space for the first time ever. There's so many things to factor in where it's difficult to say this is going to be the date that the market's going to swing the other way and I'm going to sell everything. So difficult to say, because everything that's playing out now has never happened before. XRP, let's go JP. See who laughs last, Miles? Yeah, basically, see who laughs last. There is no chance of a Labour government banning any form of tax. The UK is cooked. I agree, unfortunately. Now, let's go inside of, I want to share with you CleanSpark, some news that's came out. So CleanSpark essentially are, high profile investors and so on, in terms of, it's a report that's came out, their rating system essentially by HC, essentially Wainwright and Co. They've came out and said this: CleanSpark is essentially, they're telling the whole world essentially CleanSpark essentially is a good purchase in terms of being a Bitcoin mining industry. Now, the reason I want to share this news quickly is because what I'm trying to say is, if you're inside the crypto space, opting out to go for Bitcoin mining industry shares inside the stock market is not really a good option. If you have limited funds, you might want to be just focusing on essentially the crypto space regarding going essentially for these mining options that are coming out. There's a lot of cloud Bitcoin mining options out there. What I'm trying to say is not financial advice and any sort of, but personal preference. Try to stay away from them. There's a lot of cloud Bitcoin mining options out there. The majority of them are scams, is what I'm trying to say. Now, what to expect regarding the Fed meeting that is coming up. Are we going to get rate cuts? Are we not going to get rate cuts? How is things going to be playing out? Rate cuts are basically a cherry on top for the crypto space to have a positive movement. If we get a rate cut, that means it's an indication that an economy, traditional economy, is not doing too well, which means essentially the crypto space and the alternative market space will do well. So rate cuts is positive. No rate cuts, very negative. Now, last time when we had rate cuts, but we also had Jerome Powell speaking bad on Bitcoin, which is why the market did a downtrend instead of a positive movement. But in general, rate cuts is positive, no rate cuts is negative. So, according to Jerome Powell's previous statements, we're not going to have that many rate cuts this year, which is bad for the crypto space. But in general, we're still going to have the rules and regulations and everything else, which is good for the crypto space. So Jerome Powell might be able to, create some volatility inside the crypto space, but not that much. Because Jerome Powell's speech, the echo of his speech lasts about 2-3 days inside the market space if the market essentially picks back up and leaves. But here it is. What to expect regarding the Fed meeting. What is the latest situation? Here are all the details and expectations for the meeting that's coming up with the Fed. As the Fed begins essentially its two-day meeting this week, investors are not expecting any sort of rate cuts. However, with the stock market in an unstable essentially position, all eyes are on the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell's speech after the meeting, which could essentially provide critical information about central banks' essentially stance on inflation and future monetary policies. The Fed's interest rate decision essentially will be announced tomorrow, essentially at 22 UTC time. Essentially, the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell will hold a press conference essentially at 22:30. Jerome Powell's tone on inflation will be critical for Wall Street, said John, portfolio manager at Gilby Funds. Investors need essentially to hear the price presence or continuing to ease, essentially, especially with the potential risk to emerge inside the global market space. Current swap contracts suggest that investors widely expect the Fed to hold off on rate cuts for now and maintain its current monetary policy. However, uncertainty remains about how long the pause will last, making essentially Jerome Powell's comments on Wednesday's press conference a pivotal moment for the financial market space. While Jerome Powell is expected essentially to maintain his cautious approach essentially for the market participants will closely be analyzing the Fed's word choice and tone for any clues about the inflation outlook or potential policy essentially changes. Wall Street pros will be essentially praising every word for signs of Jerome Powell's thoughts on inflation. Any signs in terms of that price pressure or easing or new risk or emerges could essentially have a significant impact on the market sentiment, which is true. Well, now recently we've had essentially a market pressure from, yesterday, in other words, DeepSeek, but the market has been able to come back slightly. But Jerome Powell's speech, which is going to be today, essentially, because it is 12:06 a.m. right now in London. But Jerome Powell's speech is going to be essentially today, so we have to see what he's going to be saying. If it's rate cuts, good news. If there's no rate cuts, bad news. If he says we're just going to be doing maybe one rate cut this year, even worse news. But all of this will, the effects of Jerome Powell's speech will last essentially 2-3 days before the market reacts to something else on the news. Just want to give you a heads up on that. Now, also, the longer Jerome Powell decides to not do a rate cut, the worse the economic bubble crisis will become inside the United States. And if the United States market, bubble burst, then the entire world economy will just go pretty much in the simplest way to put it. As the Bank of International Settlement puts it, if the American markets sneeze, the world market catches a cold. Now, moving on essentially from what Jerome Powell's speech is possibly going to lean towards, and the effects will only last 2-3 days in the market space before any other news that comes out and essentially makes the market move a different direction. French authorities is what we're going to talk about next. So on this live yesterday, I revealed that France is deciding to do unrealized capital gains tax, which means if you are holding your cryptocurrencies and deciding not to sell, but you're sitting on profits, France wants a piece of the pie of that. So if you're a crypto investor in France, there is a law that's coming out this year, which states that if you hold your cryptocurrencies and do not sell, but make a profit, you are liable for tax. And I said, France is basically broke, and they've decided to tax the crypto space because when a country needs more money, any government, as I said simply yesterday, if any government needs more money, there's a few ways they can get more money. One method is borrowing from another country. The issue with France is everybody around them is also broke. The other way a country can have more money is by printing it, which will also increase the inflation situation. And the other way, which is the third option, is tax it out of the people. So France having a massive economic bubble crisis on their real estate space, not being able to borrow money from any other country because every other country inside the EU is also broke. For example, Germany has a massive economic bubble crisis regarding the automotive industry. But, putting that to the side, France, I said, decided to squeeze money out of the crypto space, because they think that's the best way to do it. And a lot of people are actually in favor of this. People who are not obviously inside the crypto space, but a lot of people are in favor of France essentially taxing the crypto space. And I said the people that are in favor of France taxing the crypto space are morons, because these are regular people who are brainwashed to believe that if France does tax crypto investors on their unrealized gains, they assume, the people that are, saying, yes, this is a great idea, they assume that that money will be entering into, fixing the roads in France, or their education in France, or, helping with their healthcare in France. But in reality, that money is never going to be going towards the people. Let's just be honest with ourselves, because for the past 20 years, or, I'm just referencing 20 years, I could say for the past 30 years or 40 years, but let's just assume for the past 20 years, and we have all been paying taxes in essentially in any country that you live in. For the past 20 years, you have been paying taxes. And for the past 20 years, each country around the world has got worse. Even though you are paying taxes for the last 20 years to fix the education system, to fix the roads, to fix your safety inside of your country. And it seems like no matter how much tax money you pay, that tax money never ends up fixing your roads or going towards your children's education or going towards anything beneficial for the people of that country. So this is why I say people who essentially are in favor of, people paying more taxes are morons, because that money will never enter the people's pockets. And France needs more money, so who they're going to get it from? They can't borrow it, because who they're going to borrow it from? They can't print it, because they already have an inflation situation. So they're going to tax the crypto space. And well, France has thought of a new way. France has a new method now also to get more money from the crypto space, and that is by suing Binance. French authorities probe Binance over tax fraud. How ironic, because yesterday France came out with the news of tax on terms of cryptocurrency traders in France and unrealized gain profits, and it was all about tax yesterday to squeeze more money out of the crypto traders. Well, France decided to up their level even more today by suing Binance for tax fraud and money laundering, and a multitude of other allegations. French authorities are investigating Binance, the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, by trading volume over potential tax fraud and money laundering. The inquiry, led by Paris Public Prosecutor Office, examines activities from 2019 to 2024. Retainers reported the probe on January 28th, confirming earlier suspicions of regulatory scrutiny. The investigation follows a essentially review initiated in June 2023, when French officials first raised concerns about possible financial misconduct. Documents suggest that the exchange has faced essentially formal inquiries since at essentially at least 2022. Prosecutors are evaluating whether Binance violated any sort of tax laws or illicit fund transfers and so on. A spokesperson for the company stated, for Binance fully denies the allegations and will vigorously fight any changes made against it. This development arrives months after Binance resolved a separate case with the United States authorities. In November 2023, the company agreed to pay obviously $4.3 billion to settle charges tied to anti-money laundering violations inside the United States. As a part of the settlement, former CEO CZ stepping down. Despite these resolutions, Binance remains entangled in legal disputes. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission continues to pursue claims that the exchange operated without proper registration, but that's only because the SEC didn't provide proper registration for any exchange. And meanwhile, a U.S. class action lawsuit, essentially alleging securities laws breaches, has advanced. Binance recently essentially lost a bid to dismiss their case with the Supreme Court's declining essentially. Legal experts note that the outcome could set precedents for how crypto platforms comply with investors' protection rules. The French probe underscores widening regulatory pressures on crypto firms. Authorities essentially globally are tightening oversights of crypto platforms, demanding clear compliance and framework. While Binance maintains its operations adherence to local laws, the repeated investigations highlights essentially precedent challenges in balancing innovation with accountability. As the case essentially unfolds, industry observers anticipate stricter enforcement measures across Europe, and the Paris Prosecutor's Office has not specified timelines for conducting essentially or for concluding its inquiries. For now, Binance faces dual battles defending its reputations in the courtrooms and evaluating regulatory environments. So, in the most simplest way, France needs money. France is broke. France can't borrow money because who are they going to borrow from? France can't print more money because that's the reason they're in right now, more inflation. So France is going to tax that money. or in this case now, sue crypto companies to squeeze money out of them. So, as the SEC was going around and suing crypto companies for no apparent reason, because it was probably forced by, let's just say, Senator Elizabeth Warren, in this case, France as a country is going to go around and sue crypto companies to squeeze money out of them. I mean, if this isn't desperation, I don't know what is. At this point, France just should, chapter 15 and chapter 11 and call it bankruptcy day. Because what they're going to squeeze out of Binance, 20 million, 50 million, how long is that going to last in France? 2 days? But, if I was in charge of France and how to save money, the first thing I will do, and I think everybody will agree, is stop sending Ukraine millions to billions of dollars, or in this case, euros. That could maybe save France some money. But, who am I to say? Crypto.com is what we're going to talk about next. Crypto.com to delist Tether for EU users on January 31st. Now, everybody's fully aware of the MiCA regulations that came out, essentially the EU, in terms of what their policies are going to be moving forward and everything else that comes with it, essentially. But here is one thing that you should know, essentially, in terms of the regulations coming out of the EU, which a lot of countries are going to have the same regulations, G20 countries especially, because they also had the same declaration, G20 summit that happened in New Delhi, where they said every regulation will be the same in terms of the planes in the sky. Now, for cryptocurrencies, the same. USDT, obviously, being on the hot seat for this whole MiCA regulations and stable coins and so on. And the last date for any exchange to have USDT available in the EU is the end of this month, 31st of January. After securing session, so here it is, Crypto.com to delist Tether for EU users on January 31st. So if you're somebody that is using Crypto.com in the EU and you're somebody that's holding USDT, you might want to transfer it into USDC. Not financial advice in any sort of a way, but it is being delisted. After securing marketing essentially crypto assets license, Crypto.com will become the second major digital asset exchange to discontinue trading support for Tether stablecoin in Europe. Crypto.com plans to delist Tether's USD-pegged stablecoin USDT by January 31st. For European customers, due to its compliance with markets and crypto asset regulations. Per an email essentially issued to all users today, the email cited also included delisting notice on other assets, including DAI. It's not just essentially USDT that's been delisted as a stablecoin. A fraction essentially of stablecoins are being delisted as well. So DAI is also being delisted. Also, wrapped Bitcoin is being delisted. Pax Gold is being delisted. Pax Dollar is being delisted, and 3 other essentially digital asset derivative tokens operated by Crypto.com. A spokesperson said in a statement obtained essentially that the decision only affected EU users and advised customers to convert outstanding assets to compliant tokens by March. So Crypto.com is letting you buy March, but by 31st of January, by the end of this month, USDT is delisted. If you are still holding crypto assets that are essentially banned on Crypto.com inside the EU, you'll have by March to switch them over. But anybody else after 31st of January, after the end of this month, will not be able to purchase USDT. In line with MiCA essentially regulatory requirements, we will suspend the purchase of affected assets on the 31st of January 2025, essentially. Users holding these tokens will have until the end of Q1, 31st of March, to convert them to MiCA compliant assets. Otherwise, they will be automatically converted into a compliant stablecoin or an asset of a corresponding market value. Crypto.com's representatives, once effective, Crypto.com will follow Coinbase as the second major crypto exchange to delist USDT in Europe. Coinbase ended support for this stablecoin late last year, citing non-compliance with MiCA frameworks. Crypto.com's decision comes shortly after the company secured their licensings in the EU, essentially allowing it to operate in crypto-related services across the EU under the regulatory frameworks. And Tether's future in the European market space has faced increased scrutiny since the MiCA introduced stricter standards for stablecoins and crypto services across the continent. But I mean, there's a reason why USDT is being banned. It's because they're not transparent. Nobody knows what's backing USDT. At this point, I don't even think the founder of Tether knows what's backing Tether. I mean, it's not financial advice in any sort of a way. only for entertainment purposes only. Now, what we're going to be talking about next is this whole debate that's still continuing inside the crypto space. And the debate is it going to be a Bitcoin reserve or is it going to be an XRP reserve? Now, the Bitcoin maxis obviously want a Bitcoin reserve because they hate the idea of competition, because Bitcoin won't be able to thrive under competition. And that's just common sense, I'll be honest. But here's the thing. A lot of CEOs from Bitcoin Maxi's side have come out with multiple of statements on why Bitcoin is the best option for the United States and for the world, and everything else we should just forget about it because Bitcoin is the best and full stop. But in reality, if you're somebody that's inside the crypto space, and you could be a Bitcoin Maxi, but you have to admit to yourself, Bitcoin is slow and expensive, and you can't build anything on it. As I've said, many have tried and they've all failed. But a renowned founder has came out today talking about the positive steps essentially that Bitcoin is taking to fix this whole space. Essentially, the Bitcoin Maxi essentially have come out. One renowned founder has come out and said, "This is it. This is the 5 steps that Bitcoin needs to thrive under essentially." But you know what? Before we go through this, let's go inside the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. More than happy to answer any questions you may have. Now, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we'll go straight into that news regarding Bitcoin versus XRP, which is still a dispute that's going on. Let's go inside the comment section first, and let's see what's going on in there, and then we'll go straight to that news. Miles, congratulations on reaching 250 shows. Thank you so much, Autistic, for that. Yes, this is episode 250 of the CMF Live, which is incredible. We're on episode 250 right now. If you're watching this is episode 250. So who, I'll say it. POG manner to Biden and Gary Gensler means, yes, that's very funky, brother. Bitcoin is becoming digital gold or has no purpose. If Bitcoin doesn't become digital gold, then it has no purpose. I agree. Because Bitcoin for payments, it's not possible. Bitcoin for AI, not possible. Bitcoin for tokenization, also not possible. Bitcoin for NFTs, not possible. Bitcoin for, well, anything is not really possible. Bitcoin for just to stand there and look pretty, it's possible. Due to its limited token supply, but can be extended according to BlackRock, and it is true it can be. But that's the only option Bitcoin has to become a risk-off asset, and it's still not a risk-off asset. And even though, for example, BlackRock has given the title of digital gold to Bitcoin for the longest time now, to become gold, you have to react like gold. And unfortunately, Bitcoin doesn't react like gold. It just doesn't. And those are facts. As I said yesterday, essentially, if any country goes to war today, as I explained yesterday, if any country goes to war, and Bitcoin Maxis might not want to hear this, but it is the truth. If any country goes to war today, it could be China and Taiwan, it could be, whatever country goes into war today, right now. 2 countries go to war right now. Gold is going to increase in value, because it's a risk-off asset. Bitcoin is going to do what? Go up if 2 countries randomly go to war right now? No, Bitcoin is going to go. So this is why I explained yesterday, giving the title of digital gold to Bitcoin makes 0 sense, because it hasn't achieved the status of digital gold, because it doesn't react like gold. And that's the simplest way to put it. It doesn't react like gold. It's what I said. It's very simple. Honestly, you can ask any Bitcoin Maxi right now. Like, you go to anyone essentially and say this. But if 2 countries go to war right now, what's Bitcoin going to do? Start going positively upwards? No, it's going to go down. And what's gold going to do? Up. Why? Risk-off asset. So how can Bitcoin have the title of digital gold when it can't react like gold? is what I said yesterday. And well, now there's a founder that's came out, essentially a renowned founder coming out and essentially talking about this matter. And regarding essentially Ian mentioning the comment as well, Bitcoin has to become digital gold or it has no purpose, which is facts. It has to become digital gold somewhere down the line. Otherwise, Bitcoin has no purpose whatsoever. Because if Bitcoin can't do payments, you can't do, Bitcoin and AI, it just won't work. Bitcoin and gaming doesn't work. Bitcoin and payments doesn't work. Bitcoin and NFTs doesn't work. Bitcoin and anything just doesn't work. So Bitcoin has just to stand there and look pretty. That's the only thing it can achieve. If it can't achieve that, then it's absolutely useless. Miles, congratulations on reaching 250 autistic. But yes, it's true. The only thing Bitcoin can do and can become is digital gold somewhere down the line. But it hasn't achieved that title yet. Miles, they will not do the rate cuts as Jerome Powell does not like Trump. He will essentially be the next Gary Gensler. It's true. Jerome Powell is not really a fan of Trump, and Trump is not really a fan of Jerome Powell either. But they are trying to put some sort of pressure on Jerome Powell in some sort of. I mean, knowing Trump is definitely going to put pressure on Jerome Powell. Trump is very good at, putting that pressure on anyone. For example, the essentially Colombian situation, the Mexican situation, where they didn't accept their own prisoners, and just by increasing the tariffs within a few hours, Mexico was tuning a different tune, Colombia was tuning a different tune, and essentially they accepted their own essentially people. But Trump is very good at applying pressure in every aspect, and I think if Jerome Powell starts acting weird towards Trump, then Trump will definitely find a way to put him back in his place. France will hear a loud vacuum noise of residents leaving if they do essentially reserve assets. Yes. If they do unrealized capital gains tax on crypto assets. Yes, facts. Teach Miles. Let's go Stormy. Miles, you are on point. The tax dollars are being mismanaged. Facts. They are, honestly. Exactly, Miles. They are broke. Therefore, they need to control and manipulate the people. Pretty much. Hence why I love the loopholes. Let's go, JP. And that opens doors for essentially unrealized gains, like the real estate, essentially stocks and other investments. Also true. I think the CMF called this like 2 years ago. Yep, we did. Bitcoin is backing Tether, Miles. It's more like Tether is backing Bitcoin. It's not Bitcoin backing Tether. It's more like Tether is backing Bitcoin. Let me tell you why. The reason essentially Tether is technically backing Bitcoin and not the other way around is because Tether is backed by US Treasury bonds, it's backed by US dollars, and it's backed by gold reserves. Now, we don't know if this is true. Tether claims this is true. That's a whole different subject. It's the reason why USDT got banned in MiCA regulations. It's the reason why USDT is banned in the EU, in other words, because Tether doesn't want to be transparent or hold their reserve assets essentially in the EU banks to show any sort of reserve assets and so on. So Tether not being transparent, it just makes it all weird in a sense, but as a stable coin as well. But putting that to one side, it's Tether that's backing Bitcoin, not Bitcoin backing Tether. Tether is backed by, in their own words, US Treasury bonds, US Treasury yields, US dollars and gold and other reserve assets, which then Tether is used, USDT, to buy Bitcoin, which therefore Bitcoin isn't really backing Tether, and Tether is actually backing Bitcoin. And if we do come to a conclusion where Tether is lying about their reserves, well, then the entire market space will get reevaluated, because we're working on the basis that one USDT is $1. But if Tether actually is lying about their reserves and they don't actually have the backings they claim to have, then the market space will get revalued. So it's not really Bitcoin that's backing Tether. It's more like Tether is backing Bitcoin. And if Tether, hits the fan, it's not going to really end well for anyone. But it'll be a great buying opportunity for your favorite crypto projects. Tether is backing a Bitcoin. Okay, Ian, you changed it around towards the bottom. Well, tough S, sorry for my language. No problem, JP. Evening, Miles and CMF. Money, good to see what you do. I didn't see you change at the bottom. You said Tether is backing Bitcoin. Yeah, that's more correct than the other one. You just put it the other way around. No problem. If you have any problems with Bitcoin, who do you call Michael Saylor? Yeah, if you do have any problems, who do you call Michael Saylor? Is that the tune from Ghostbusters? Tether has no backing. That's why it's not compliant or trusted. Facts. It's because Tether doesn't want to show its backings, which makes us to believe it doesn't have any backings. But then again, I'm just one person with a personal preference, not financial advice in any sort of way, entertainment purposes only. But here it is, the renowned, the dispute that's going on, Bitcoin versus XRP. So one founder, a Bitcoin founder, has came out and has given 5 reasons why only a Bitcoin reserve makes sense and nothing else. Bitcoin's OS co-founder, Eden, made a bold prediction. The United States government will almost certainly establish a Bitcoin reserve. In a detailed analysis, he outlined essentially 5 reasons why such a move promised essentially by President Donald Trump during his campaigns now seems, it's going to be happening. He said, for example, in July 2024, Trump surprised the Bitcoin community by promising to create a strict national Bitcoin stockpile during a speech at the Bitcoin conference. This was followed by Wyoming's essentially Senator Cynthia Lummis introducing the Bitcoin Reserve Bill, which proposes that the US government purchase 1 million BTC over 4 years. Eden also argues that the crypto industry's significant influence during 2024 election, spending $130 million on lobbying and political action committees, will force Trump to fulfill his promise. Now, what Eden doesn't understand is the $130 million essentially that was spent on Trump's, presidential election from the crypto space, or the $200 million that was spent on his presidential election from the crypto space, came from blockchain companies that weren't really Bitcoin oriented, but they were more like Ripple was paying the big bucks during Trump's essentially campaigning, and then Coinbase was paying the big bucks as well regarding, Ripple and Coinbase essentially did the most amount of work during the getting the Republicans candidated in terms of Trump's policies and so on, and they did the most amount of work, Ripple and Coinbase, in terms of funding the whole campaign and becoming essentially creating this whole pro-crypto Republican candidate section. Now, Eden argues that the crypto industry's significant influence, and in the earlier days of his presidency, Trump also essentially signed an executive order titled Strengthening American Leadership in Digital Financial Technologies, which called the creation of the National Digital Asset Stockpile. With the order, while the order does not, the executive order does not explicitly mandate the purchase of Bitcoin, it does create a framework for holding and managing the 200,000 Bitcoins seized through law enforcement actions. It's true. Even though the executive order that Trump signed doesn't really state any crypto asset, and it gives us the idea that it's going to be a basket of crypto assets that, essentially Trump is going to be doing inside the United States. It does, state that seized assets will be considered inside the stockpile as well, which is the 200,000, worth of Bitcoins. That's been essentially 200,000 Bitcoins that has been seized. Now, he also emphasized that the task force overseeing this initiative includes prominent Bitcoin advocates, such as Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and Treasury Secretary Scott Benson and SEC Chairman Mark, who are all pro-Bitcoin. But do you know what they also are? Pro-crypto in general. Moreover, Trump has already delivered on promises he's made to the crypto community, including pardoning essentially Silk Road founder Ross and dismissing the former SEC chairman Gary Gensler, which is true, who was actually criticized for his strict regulatory stance on digital assets. Now, he also notes that the Republican Party has increasingly embraced cryptocurrencies. In 2024, for example, the party's platform openly supported innovations in digital assets and passed several pro-crypto bills, including the FIT21 Act, which would create essentially clearer regulations. But to be fairly honest, the FIT21 bill was actually more in favor of creating regulations for stablecoins than in general the crypto space. A lot of people get that wrong. Prominent party members such as the Senate Banking Committee Chairman Tim Scott and Digital Asset Subcommittee Chair Cynthia Lummis have openly supported Bitcoin. That's true. Cynthia Lummis, subcommittee assets in terms of digital assets, has supported Bitcoin for the longest time. It's very true. Now, Lummis, a staunch advocate, owns 5 Bitcoins herself and supports the legislations aimed integrating essentially Bitcoin into the US economy. And beyond political or financial incentives, He also notes that the ideological alignments between Bitcoin supporters and Republicans, many Republicans share Bitcoin for their opinions on central bank digital currencies, and they see Bitcoin essentially as the stable money. A key component of Senator Cynthia Lummis's Bitcoin reserve addresses the national debt. Instead of taxing citizens, the bill proposes reevaluating the US gold reserves at current market prices, unlocking hundreds of billions of dollars in value. A portion of that revenue could be used to purchase about 5% of Bitcoin's total supply, which is in line essentially with the scale of the national gold reserve. Look, the points that this man has made as a co-founder or founder of a Bitcoin company, which is Bitcoin OS, he's made very vague points. They're not quite accurate, to be fairly honest. I mean, he said that essentially the FIT21 bill is an indication of a Bitcoin reserve. It's not really an indication of Bitcoin reserve. The FIT21 bill was mostly designed or written essentially for stablecoins to have regulations. The FIT21 bill has nothing to do with a Bitcoin reserve. Just want to point that out. But, you know, the Bitcoin OS founder, essentially the Bitcoin OS co-founder, Eden, is suggesting, you know, these are 5 reasons for Bitcoin reserve is definitely happening, and that's it. And no other crypto reserve is happening inside the US. And he said the FIT21 bill is one of the reasons. It isn't. FIT21 bill is for stablecoin regulations compared to general regulations or have anything to do with a Bitcoin reserve. He said essentially Trump's pro Bitcoin stance. It's true, Trump does have a pro Bitcoin stance, but he also has in general a pro crypto stance. That is why in the executive order he signed America becoming the capital of cryptocurrencies. It wasn't America becoming the capital of Bitcoin. Also in the executive order he signed essentially that we're going to be having a national digital reserve, not a Bitcoin reserve, which means it's definitely not indicated in the executive order a Bitcoin reserve is guaranteed to happen, rather than a basket of cryptocurrencies. And then he also goes on the matter of essentially stating that the essentially assets that are in the seized option is an indication of a Bitcoin reserve. The assets that America has seized, for example, the Bitcoin that they have seized, isn't again an indication of just a Bitcoin reserve. It just means assets that are also seized can be considered for the stockpile crypto reserve. So in the most simplest way to put it, this co-founder of Bitcoin OS has made 0 valid points. Actually, he made 1 good valid point, that Cynthia Lummis has tried to create a Bitcoin Act. That's true. But everything else he said was a complete blatant, you know, playing with the truth a bit loose, let's just say. But the Cynthia part is true. You know, Cynthia Lummis has been trying to create a Bitcoin Act. That's true, no matter what. But the rest of it was a bit, you know, here and there. And on the subject of Cynthia Lummis is also very pro-crypto in general, not just pro-Bitcoin. But here is something about Cynthia Lummis. She is tired that we still haven't got the regulations in. And yes, Mark and essentially Hester Pierce, you know, do have a lot of work on their hands, because the way Gary Gensler left the SEC is the same way, you know, Sleepy Joe's administration left America in shambles. Honestly, America was left in shambles until Trump came in and is now slowly fixing America again. And the way Gary Gensler left the SEC was also in shambles. And now, essentially, the SEC is being fixed slowly by Mark and Hester Pierce. So, but Cynthia Lummis is tired of waiting and she wants the regulations now. So she decided to back Coinbase inside of their battle that's going on with the SEC. So here it is. Cynthia Lummis, senator, challenges the SEC's crypto enforcements in Coinbase case. Now, the cases are still obviously going on, but they are going to be dismissed, essentially, and settled. But the cases with Coinbase and Ripple and so on, they're still going on. And here it is. Senator Cynthia Lummis has formally supported Coinbase's legal challenge against the US Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC. In the court's filings, Lummis argued that the SEC is misapplying decades-old securities laws to cryptocurrencies, a move she claims exceeds the agency's authority. The senator essentially's brief submitted to the Second Circuit's Court of Appeals, it sought that Congress, not regulators, should define the rules for digital assets and the SEC should enforce them, which is how it's supposed to be. Congress makes the rules, SEC enforces the rules. But, Gary Gensler was doing his own thing. The SEC's essentially case against Coinbase hinges on whether certain cryptocurrencies qualify as securities under existing laws. Luminous contends that these laws were not designed for blockchain-based assets, which is common sense. But again, Gary Gensler left the SEC in shambles, and now Mark and Hester Pierce are really trying to fix things up quicker. So with lawsuits pending across the country that rely on the SEC, essentially, interpretation of securities laws, it is vital that the Second Circuit's courts, essentially the country's leading securities law courts, weigh in now and halt the SEC of separation of powers and essentially enforcements in terms of Congress lawmaking powers. Cynthia Luminous wants to get rid of the SEC's powers completely in terms of enforcing whatever law they want, as in whatever law they make up. And she wants Congress to be back in power. Congress makes the laws for crypto policies, SEC enforces them, full stop. And that's the way it should be, especially now we have a very, very pro-crypto Congress. And I mean pro-crypto Congress. And pro-crypto Senate, pro-crypto everything, to be fairly honest. I mean, you can see Scott, for example, winning as the US Treasury Secretary. It just shows you that America is definitely on a pro-crypto route right now. Now, her filings state that the SEC's current approach creates a regulatory uncertainty, which could stifle growth in digital asset sectors. The Second Circuit's courts must clarify how securities laws will apply to cryptocurrencies. The brief reads, a ruling here could influence pending SEC cases, firms like Ripple and Binance. What essentially Cynthia Luminous is doing, Senator Cynthia Luminous is doing, is essentially for Coinbase is going to be echoed towards Ripple's case. So Coinbase's case gets settled or dismissed, then Ripple's case is going to get settled and dismissed, and it's just going to be a domino effect of cases getting settled and dismissed. Judge Catherine essentially pausing the SEC lawsuit against Coinbase and pending essentially the appeals courts. If the courts side with Coinbase, the SEC may need to adjust its enforcement strategies. Now, legal experts note that the outcome could set a precedent for how regulatory classification of tokens and overseas trading platforms could be. Luminous, a vocal proponent of crypto-friendly legislations, has long criticized the SEC's aggressive stance, but that was when Gary Gensler was running the show. But now she also still wants to get the show up and running quicker, with Hester Pierce and Mark being in charge. Mark being the acting chairman, Hester Pierce being essentially the leader in the crypto task force created for the SEC overnight the moment Gary Gensler left. Now, her position essentially aligns with the industry's leaders who claim the SEC's actions create compliance and hurdles without essentially clear guidelines. Meanwhile, the SEC maintains that existing securities laws are essentially sufficient to address fraud and investor risk, and in terms of crypto markets. Now, former chairman Gary Gensler, damaged the SEC quite a lot, which is why, if you're wondering to yourself, why hasn't the SEC dropped the lawsuits? Why hasn't the SEC, settled the lawsuits or brought out the regulations yet? Why isn't the SEC moving faster? It's because Gary Gensler's impact on the SEC was so much that Hester Pierce and Mark are filled, the amount of paperwork, let's just put it in the simplest way, the amount of paperwork they have to file out is ridiculous. And just to give you an example, there was a former CFTC commissioner who was supposed to be chosen to lead the SEC as the new chairman. And back then, when Trump, essentially, there's a rumor going around, Trump is trying to give him the chairmanship of the SEC, that man rejected becoming the SEC chairman. And the reason why he rejected becoming the SEC chairman is because, in his words, Gary Gensler has left the SEC in such a way that he cannot be bothered to even fix it, because he sees it as a very difficult task, because the way Gary Gensler is going to be leaving the SEC is just too much to do. And there's no point, is how he saw it. So what I'm trying to explain in the most simplest form is the reason why the SEC is moving slow in terms of their regulations and their policies, and in terms of their dismissals and settlements of cases, and in hindsight, they're actually moving very quick. Might not seem like it, but they're actually moving very quick. But it's because the way Gary Gensler left the SEC is the same way Joe Biden left America, in complete shambles. So a lot of paperwork to do for these two people. And In Congress, Luminous now chairs the Senate Subcommittee of Digital Assets, which means she has a much more louder voice and can do a lot more things. While representatives like Brian essentially leads a parallel House subcommittee focused on crypto and fintech, the roles and positions of both lawmakers to shape legislations that could redefine oversight of blockchain technologies. The Second Circuit's decision will likely determine whether the SEC's case against Coinbase proceeds. It may also clarify essentially how courts interpret the securities laws in crypto context, a question with essentially implications for exchanges, developers, and investors. For now, the industry essentially watches closely, waiting for the rulings that could reshape the US crypto regulations moving forward. So, if you ever wondered to yourself why the SEC is moving slow, that's the reason why, because the way Gary Gensler left things. But in general, Senator Cynthia Luminous has came forward and essentially has had enough, and she wants the SEC to move even quicker. And to be fair, the moment Gary Gensler left, the moment Gary Gensler resigned from the SEC, a crypto task force was created overnight in the SEC to move things faster in terms of regulations. So they are moving quite fast. But in terms of her words, they need to move faster. And I understand, because the world is becoming very competitive right now in terms of blockchain and AI, which means the US has to move incredibly quick, in which they are. But I like the push idea, essentially Cynthia Luminous pushing the SEC even further. But now moving, essentially, putting that to one side and changing the topic completely. And now we're going to talk about Sui, which is a crypto project that most of you have probably heard of. And what Sui has introduced is slightly innovative. And the reason why I say it's slightly innovative is because it's something that's been introduced before on Bitcoin's network and a few other networks. But, well, here it is. Sui users, the crypto project, might soon be able to make transactions by just using SMS, so text messages in other words. You can make crypto transactions on Sui by just texting your friend or SMSing your friend. Mr. Labs, a blockchain technology company, seems to have essentially outdone itself with its soon-to-launch feature on its Sui blockchain platform, which requires no internet but just radio frequency to be able to send crypto transactions. An hour ago, essentially, one of the co-founders of Mr. Labs tweeted that he did some Sui transactions on a boat without the internet. And he said, "I told you, I literally had to work from the boat last week without internet," he said. The new feature he's referring to is called Sui SMS, and it's already making waves. It's very simple. Sui users would be able to carry out transactions simply by sending an SMS with no internet access. It was initially revealed by essentially Aldinion, another Mr. Labs co-founder, where he essentially tweeted about the features that it's coming soon. This means that you can send payments, interact with decentralized finance DeFi, claim essentially rewards, and much more, all via text message. This makes the platform even more simple to use, more efficient, and perfect for those essential areas with limited internet access. Upon its launch, this could be a game changer for blockchain industries. The feature could get essentially adopted in a short while and even evolve essentially to meet the needs of the wider audience. Now, it's not really a game changer, I'll be honest, because all credit to these people for making Sui, be capable of doing this. But the idea of no internet and being able to do text message payment transactions happened originally in a few African nations, essentially, where they were testing this out about 4 years ago, when they were able to do transfers of Bitcoin back then on text messages. And then we fast forward a little bit, and then we also got essentially, even though some people claim, what I'm trying to say in the most simplest way is there's actually a few crypto projects that can, in a way, use for you to be able to do crypto payments not using the internet, in a way. Okay, the simplest way to explain what I mean by that is, for example, the XRP ledger. The XRP ledger, some people will say XRP ledger cannot do payments, without the internet, but it can in a way. So it's a yes and no type of way. So there's a video essentially of, the XRP ledger being used by developers essentially from Xamon. Xamon wallet, in other words, everybody knows that. So the number one XRP ledger wallet. Now there's a video of it, essentially the XRP ledger is being used to be able to, buy a cup of coffee. So somebody's using the XRP ledger, using a vending machine to buy a cup of coffee with no internet access. The payment goes through and you get a cup of coffee and you walk out. Now, a lot of people claim, well, technically, it still uses internet and so on, because the moment your phone connects to the nearest internet spot, your balance gets updated. So you could say it's technically not really off, not using internet, but it is in a sense. And what I'm trying to say is the customer doesn't care. So the customer, all they care about is, can the customer walk into anywhere with no internet access and be able to buy on the XRP ledger? The answer is yes, you can do that. But the moment you get to the nearest internet connection is when your balance updates. But people will claim, well, that's not really, no internet use. But it is, because you just made a purchase as a customer with no internet. And all the customer cares about. The customer doesn't care how the payment was done. Nobody has ever walked into a grocery store, and when they go to pay for their groceries, they swipe their MasterCard or, tap in or chip and pin their MasterCard and go, can you explain to me how the payment on MasterCard works, to the person trying to, beep your items through? So nobody really cares about how it's done. All they care about is, can I buy something with no internet from a vending machine or from the grocery store? The answer is yes. That's all the customer cares about. But the reason why I'm trying to say this is because there's a few blockchains that have introduced the ideas of using frequency essentially to make payments go through, or using alternative methods for no internet access. Now, and the method of using text messages was actually introduced about 4 years ago on Bitcoin in a few African nations where they were doing payments like that. Now, what we're going to be talking about next is, ironically, payment systems, but Visa. So, Elon Musk, X platform, that's going to become an everything app. And the biggest thing about X becoming an everything app was, which crypto is X going to choose? It turns out X is going to choose no crypto projects, but it is going to be choosing Visa. But there's a catch, and I'll explain what I mean after I read you this. The deal makes X money the first product of its kind on the platform. Elon Musk's X platform with Visa for financial services, ignoring crypto. Users will soon be able to send money directly between their bank accounts and their X wallet. It also supports instant peer-to-peer payments, almost like Venmo and Zelle, but of course with Elon's essentially spin on X. X Money is Elon's clearest move yet towards building the everything app. He's been teasing this essentially since his $44 billion takeover of Twitter back in October 2022. Elon said he wanted to turn the app into a hub where people could run essentially their own entire financial lives. But here's the thing. There's not a single mention of Bitcoin, Dogecoin, or any kind of crypto in this rollout of the X Everything app. And for a guy who's basically been inside the crypto space, that's got some of us really disappointed, is what people are right now panicking towards. Elon Musk is not going to be using a crypto project for the Everything app of X. The X Money account will let users send and receive payments directly on the platform, according to Linda, X's CEO. Essentially, she broke the news on a post today calling Visa the ideal launch partner for this new feature. It's a solid decision on paper. Visa handles more than $14 trillion in transactions every year by essentially into the network. And Linda said X is making sure payments flow smoothly and instantly for its users. Creators will be able to benefit from X Money, as they'll be able to accept payments for content without relying on external apps like PayPal or Cash App, for example. Here's the timelines. The service is expected to launch sometime in the first quarter of the year, but let's call it like it is. Visa isn't exactly revolutionary. Sure, it works, but crypto lovers, like essentially, is at the crypto space, will be asking why Elon, of all people, is playing it safe, especially when he's crypto president Donald Trump's best friend right now. And we all remember how in 2021, under Jack Dorsey's leadership, Twitter launched a Bitcoin tipping feature that lets essentially users add crypto wallets and send Bitcoin directly to each other. This essentially that cemented Twitter as a crypto-friendly platform. Fast forward to January 2025, and X doesn't have any of that anymore. People expected Elon to come out with swinging with Bitcoin and Dogecoin as a part of his platforms and payment systems ages ago. He's even hinted at using blockchain for payments on X. Maybe it's because setting up a crypto-based payment system isn't easy. Even X Money's launch has been a bureaucratic grind. X Payments LLC is licensed in 41 states and registered with FinCEN and Financial Crimes Enforcement Networks and many other agencies. If adding crypto on top of that feels like a legal nightmare, Elon might just be trying to avoid a headache. But then again, this guy told us he wasn't ever going to promote crypto seriously in 2023. He explicitly said that he would only get into crypto like as a joke. Hence, he's very famous for knowing as the Doge, essentially backing someone as only backing Doge as a crypto project. But one incident got crypto enthusiasts rallied up last month. Essentially, Elon's brief tweets inside the market space. Now, putting all this to one side, Elon Musk, is he playing it safe by choosing X as a payment system? Possibly. As essentially choosing Visa as a payment system? Possibly. He is playing it safe, and he doesn't want the legal headaches. Now, does that mean that crypto payments are not going to happen on X? No. You've got to understand about what Visa has been trying to accomplish for the past 2 to 3 years. Visa has had its hand inside the blockchain space for the longest time. Visa has had multiple partnerships with the blockchain space. Visa is testing out payments on the blockchains, on multiple blockchains. Visa has funded multiple blockchain startups and companies and so on. So the bigger picture of this is X going to have some sort of crypto payments? Yes, in most cases, probably through Visa. So Visa does the hard work for them, essentially, and, well, they're a partner of X. So instead of Elon Musk being sued for allowing crypto payments on his platform, which is a possibility of happening, an alternative option will be to use a payment system, which is similar to what I said, as in Elon Musk could just use an alternative payment system, could just use a payment system that has a multitude access. But this has multitude access to cryptocurrencies, but in this sense, Visa has multitude access to cryptocurrencies. But it's a safer option. He partners with Visa. Visa has access to blockchain payments. Visa goes towards blockchain payments. It's okay because Visa has all the licensings. And if any headaches do arise, it's Visa. It's got nothing to do with X. But on the idea of people thinking, well, that's it, no more crypto payments on X. Not really. Visa has a multitude of blockchain partnerships. They funded blockchain startup companies, and they've been building on blockchain networks, trying to see which was the best one for them moving forward. So it hasn't really, essentially, and Visa is a partner, just to give you a few, Visa is a partner of Ripple. They decided to do some payments. They partnered with Ripple. They partnered essentially through a third party. They partnered with a third party for Ethereum, which then they dropped out of. They went through Solana, which they're probably going to drop out of because the payments can't go through. But there's a multitude of crypto blockchain companies that you have heard of, they are partnered with, and some are just startup blockchain companies. But in general, what I'm trying to say is the dream of X becoming a crypto platform hasn't ended. Now, it's just a very, as JP has put it inside the comment section, a very smart move, very smart business move. If anything goes south, it's Visa, not X. Now, what we're going to be talking about next is 10 leveraged crypto ETFs that happened today. One company has decided to file in 10 leveraged crypto ETFs. And the crypto ETFs they are essentially filing in for is XRP, Solana, Chainlink, and a few others like Cardano, Polkadot, 10 crypto projects in general. But actually, before we go through that, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go straight to the next. Then we go straight to this news, essentially. Let's see what we're inside the comment section. As I said previously, this is live. which means if you do have any questions, put it down in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. So let's see what we have inside the comment section. Gensler raged a war against crypto. He should now go on trial for war crimes against crypto. Why not? She's the best, Cynthia Luminous. She's very great at her job. And now Gary is blaming everybody else. He's a joke. Yeah, I saw that, Gary blaming everybody else. Essentially saying, I was maybe forced to do that. Hello, Miles. Nori, good to see you as well. How you doing? Visa has acquired Ripple partner, Currency Cloud. So hopefully that will be beneficial for XRP Ledger and XRP. Definitely is going to be. It's a smart move for sure. From X, 100% yes. Now, Total files 10 leveraged crypto ETFs. Total Capital Management has applied for the creation of 10 2x leveraged ETFs to the SEC inside the United States. The new ETFs will seek to deliver investors twice the daily returns of leading digital assets like XRP, Solana, Litecoin, Chainlink, Cardano, Polkadot. This is important as Total has emerged as a first US-based asset manager to recommend leveraged ETFs for Chainlink, Cardano, Polkadot. And in the 10 crypto projects that they've chosen, one of them is Melina's new meme coin and Trump's meme coin. Leveraged ETFs are a special kind of ETFs that offer their investors exposure to 2 times the return of their underlying asset, and thus essentially 2 times the risk. This is good for investors who would love to have higher exposure, essentially to digital currencies, while at the same time knowing very well that there is a fluctuation involved. James and Eric, essentially the Bloomberg ETF specialist analyst, pointed out that these were very essentially specific kind of filings. While the majority of these cryptocurrencies have Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, most of them have no standard SEC-approved ETFs. However, there are filings under the 40 Act framework which streamline the regulatory approval process. If unopposed, these ETFs could launch as early as April. So, in the words of Eric and James, who are ETF specialists when it comes to from Bloomberg ETF specialist analyst, Eric and James. And Eric and James have been very correct on market movements and they're essentially insider source information and so on. And Bloomberg is like gospel for Wall Street. Everybody listens to Bloomberg if you're inside the market space in general. And well, according to Eric and James, we should be expecting a multitude of ETFs coming out in April. Multitude of ETFs. Eric, for example, emphasized the SEC's recent willingness to consider crypto ETFs, referencing to his recent application for Trump and Dogecoin ETFs that remain under review. This apparent essential openness signals a shift in the regulatory landscape, especially with the SEC's evolving approach to cryptocurrency oversights. The SEC's stance on cryptocurrencies has changed after President Trump obviously coming into power and Gary Gensler leaving. Now, the 5-member body is led by Chairman the 5 essentially member bodies led by Chairman Rostam Benham, which has some sort of a role but not a loud role because he is leaving as a chairman, with Commissioner essentially Hester Pierce and the crypto enthusiast as a leader of shaping the new movements inside the agency. Now, the formation of the crypto task force also supports the SEC's commitment to clearing up the confusion inside of regulations of cryptocurrencies and fostering innovation. And according to James and Eric, all of this positivity inside the SEC and the CFTC is what's going to lead to a multitude of crypto acceptance coming out in April in terms of crypto ETFs. So if we're expecting any sort of crypto ETFs for XRP, for example, April is what essentially has been suggested. A multitude of crypto ETFs are going to be accepted essentially in April, according to Eric and James, Bloomberg ETF specialist analyst. Now, on the subject of XRP, Ondo Finance, a crypto project that I told everybody about day one when it was first introduced. Ondo Finance has essentially unveiled tokenized US treasuries on the XRP ledger. Now, you must have heard the news or essentially heard segments about essentially this news coming out. But here is a little bit of a brief on what's actually happening. Ondo Finance, a leader, essentially a leading issuer in tokenized real-world asset space, has collaborated with XRP Ledger to launch tokenized US treasuries. This marks a significant achievement as it expands its scope of institutional grade products on chain. Now, just to point it out, Ondo Finance first did this with Ethereum, which I'm really thinking to myself now that that didn't go too well, because now they're going to be doing it on the XRP ledger, which makes a lot more sense because it's faster, it's cheaper, it's, better in general. So the partnership allows institutional investors to access on those short-term US government treasuries, OUSG, on the XRP ledger. This OUSG is supported by BlackRock's USD Institutional Digital Liquidity Fund build, which can be minted in real time. Additionally, it is redeemable round the clock via Ripple's RLUSD. As such, sorry about that. As such, there have been some sort of restrictions on traditional financial hours of operation. The development as a part of Ripple's expansion in terms of moves in the tokenized US Treasury space is working out. Ripple and Ondo will seed OUSG liquidity after its initial deployment. The aim is to drive further adoption of tokenized real-world assets on the XRP ledger, and as a part of offering OUSG, will allow investors access to a low-risk investment option. There has been a surge in tokenized US Treasuries, such as OUSG growth, due to its institutional demand for liquidity and transparency in the capital markets. The tokenized asset market could see its growth explode essentially by 2030, per predictions that this sector could hit over essentially $600 billion in valuations and asset under management in the next 5 years. Real-world asset tokenizations could grow to capture 1% of the global mutual funds in terms of ETF market spaces before 2035. The XRP ledger essentially appears poised to leverage its advantages to welcome essentially institutional players with their traditional financial assets on chain. With its unique offerings of verifiable trust, improved security, and opportunities to generate revenue, XRP Ledger is the perfect partner for Ondo and other institutional players as well. Now, is this the start, and I'm not saying it is in any sort of a way, but is this the start of, Ondo Finance and projects like Ondo Finance that have some sort of Ethereum, are using Ethereum chain, are going to slowly move to American companies only? Because the US is going to have a policy soon, which is American company, what you have already, which is American companies only when it comes to blockchain. So what I'm trying to say is Ondo Finance never did this in the past. The reason why they're doing it now, multiple reasons. One, XRP Ledger, the Ripple case is dismissed or settled. It's going to happen. Two, Trump's executive order, American blockchain companies first compared to anything else. And Ethereum, which is what the build essentially is originally on the finance originally on, isn't really American first. Vitalik Buterin is not going to be happy as time progresses, is what I can say. Ripple executives is what we're going to talk about next. So here it is. Ripple executives hopeful that next SEC chair will withdraw enforcement cases. Now, we do have an acting chairman inside the SEC, which is Mark. And Mark and Hester Pierce are doing the best they can, essentially, with whatever the Gary Gensler left them with. But the actual SEC chairman coming into power is what we talk about here. And, well, here it is. Ripple executive hopeful that the next SEC chairman will withdraw all enforcement essentially cases. Stewart, the chief legal officer at the blockchain payments firm Ripple Labs, said that the potential that the next head of the US Securities and Exchange Commission, once confirmed essentially by the Senate, could outright essentially withdraw civil suits against crypto firms. In the X Spaces, essentially discussions for XRP's Community Day, essentially 2025, Stewart said he was hopeful that the SEC under potential chair Paul Atkins would drop crypto essentially enforcement cases not involving fraud, which is basically Ripple. It's not fraud case, it's just stifling case, in which the lawsuit was based mainly on registration issues. Ripple remains essentially embroidered in the SEC's lawsuit, in which both parties have filed appeals, essentially after a judge issued a liability ruling in 2024. That'll take some time to work through the SEC. It's still a bureaucracy, said essentially Stewart, referring to Atkins essentially potentially dropping the lawsuits and adding this. So this is what Stewart said. Litigation regulation by enforcement is not the path that this country should be pursuing. I believe that the new SEC understands that, and I remain cautiously optimistic that at some point during 2025, the case will voluntarily be withdrawn. So even Stewart, Ripple's CLO, is stating that this is the year that this case is going to be ending, because there's nothing for this case to be carrying on towards, especially with a new pro-crypto SEC task force, and Mark essentially being acting chairman, or Hester Pierce being the crypto task force essentially. So according to Ripple's essentially CLO, the SEC case against Ripple in December 2020 alleged that the company used XRP tokens as unregistered securities for raising funds, and a federal judge found that Ripple is liable for more than $125 million back in August 2024, leading to the SEC's appeal in terms of rulings of the blockchain firm filing a cross appeal. Everybody remembers the case regarding Ripple, $125 million, it got appealed. According to Ripple's CLO, there was nothing but upside for the company based on the Trump administration approach to crypto so far. So according to Ripple, what Trump has done so far for the crypto space is amazing. And it's amazing also for Ripple, is what he's stating. Ripple's CLO, Chief Legal essentially Officer, Ripple's top lawyer, in other words, is saying that what Trump has done so far is very positive for Ripple as a company. And Trump's administration approach to crypto so far, citing a presidential executive order to establish a working group studying digital asset regulations, the SEC launching a crypto task force, and other actions. Ripple CEO Brad claimed before Trump's inauguration that 75% of firms and job openings will be based outside the US in terms of direct results. But now, because of Trump's policies and redirection of the crypto space, Ripple has had a much more heavy foot inside the US. And it's unclear if Paul Atkins will have the votes to pass a Senate confirmation hearing after his nomination by President US Donald Trump. Stewart said the Republicans essentially run Congress, containing the many lawmakers that Ripple may have helped elect with $45 million. So Ripple is pointing out right now that they have funded a lot of campaigning towards Republicans who are sitting in their chairs right now. This goes back to what I said, which was the reason why we have such a pro, and I mean pro, Republican candidacy going in every direction inside of Trump's, the Senate is very pro-Republican, and so Congress pro-Republican. Every sector, a complete sweep is pro-Republican, is because Coinbase and Ripple did the foundation for it. It was Ripple and Coinbase that were funding all of these Republican candidates everywhere. So Ripple is trying to point out that we got those Republicans to those seats, basically. And they're going to basically, well, you know how it works. You make a donation, a very big donation to politicians, what happens next. So Ripple may have helped elect with their $45 million in contributions to their political action committee, Fair Shake, could also have moved forward for the crypto market structure bill. Now, I think we've got a pro-crypto Congress driven by a pro-crypto president. I think we see legislations happening certainly before the end of 2025, said the Ripple executive, which is facts. This year, rules and regulations, first 100 days, as I said previously, is very crucial. But first 100 days, rules and regulations. We're going to have rules and regulations this year. The case between Ripple and SEC will be dismissed and settled forever. There'll be no longer any other case between Ripple and the SEC ever again. Cases dismissed and settled this year. Regulations this year. More regulations will obviously be coming out next year as well, but we'll have regulations this year. Banks will be to work with crypto companies. ETFs will be happening this year. A lot of things is this year is what I'm trying to say. And a lot of people have stated that the Ripple case with the SEC has come to some sort of a conclusion. In reality, it's just not listed on their legislation. It's not listed on their litigation page. It's listed on their appeals page on their SEC website, apparently. Now, in all sense, this is very positive, because as Ripple CEO pointing out that, look, we got those Republicans to those seats, and those Republicans are going to look after us. And on that note of Ripple got those Republicans to those seats, and those Republicans are going to look after Ripple, we have come to the endings of tonight's live. This is the end. All good things, in other words, all good things must come to an end, which they have now. This is the endings of tonight's live. This was episode 250 of the CMF Live. This is episode 250 you're watching right now, which is incredible. We're on episode 250. So if you're watching this for the first time ever and you're wondering to yourself, what is this and who the hell am I? My name is Miles. I go by the persona of Crypto Miles. What you're watching right now is the CMF Live. It stands for Crypto Miles Family. And on this live, I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, vital information for you to know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. Sorry. And this live show is Monday to Friday, 11:25 p.m. UK time onwards. So tune into this live show for episode 251 tomorrow. Tune in for episode 251 tomorrow on the CMF Live. I just want to say to everyone, thank you so much for everyone that's liked this live, retweeted this live on X, liked this live on X, put a comment outside the live on X, put hashtags XLPOME or any other hashtag you wanted to inside the comment section outside the live. Thanks so much for all the likes, retweets, and sharing. And thanks so much to everyone on YouTube who's also been liking this live and putting comments outside the comment section of this live as well. So if you tune in for the first time today, tune in tomorrow and every other day between Monday and Friday for this live. And tune in for episode 251 tomorrow. Thanks, Miles, and good night, family. Let's go, Stormy. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. There's a lot of people that's not going to be happy apart from us. Let's go, JP. Visa acquired Ripple partner cloud, so hopefully that'll be beneficial for XRP and XRP Legit. Facts. Let me go a bit more up. Let's go to the comment section first before we do go, because I think I need to read out some comments because I missed a few comments. And now Gary gets being over a joke. Gary got a new job, head greater at Walmart in Tijuana. Miles, no reasons why you don't. Visa, I read that one. It's a small business, we read that one. Okay. Of course, I sold my Ondo last week for XRP. It's okay, Ghost Burner, if you sold your Ondo for XRP last week, because XRP is going to do better than Ondo. So don't worry. If you sold your XRP, if you sold your Ondo for XRP, it's okay because XRP will perform better than Ondo in the long term anyways. So you're good. Don't worry about it. No financial advice in any sort of way for anybody else, for anyone in general, just entertainment purposes only. But XRP is a better asset than Ondo, but Ondo and Ripple come together is amazing. It's amazing for XRP in general as well, and all USD and the XRP ledger. So don't worry about it. It goes further. In the long term, you're okay. There's a lot of people that's not going to be happy apart from us. Facts. Stormy, see you tomorrow same time as usual. Thanks again for a great show. Mickey, see you tomorrow about the same time as usual as well. Night Miles and CMF. Pablo, see you tomorrow same time as usual. Stay blessed. See you on episode 251. Let's go, Max. See you on episode 251 tomorrow. Good night, Miles and family. Troy, see you tomorrow sometime as usual as well. Good night, Miles and all the CMF. Thank you for a great live. All the news. JP, let's go, brother. See you tomorrow sometime as usual. Glad you are sounding better, Miles. Let's go, Stormy. Thanks so much. Stormy, see you tomorrow sometime as usual. Good night, Miles and CMF. Great news. Thanks. See you tomorrow. Free forever. See you tomorrow sometime as usual. Night, Miles and everyone. Harry, see you tomorrow sometime as usual as well. All good. All good things must indeed come to an end. Great live. Take care, Miles and CMF. Let's go, Ray. See you tomorrow, but the same time as usual. Thanks for another great live. Have a good night. See you tomorrow, same time tomorrow. Autistic, see you tomorrow, same time. The technology makes for a better, fairer system for the world. Then let's go if. Facts. Good night, Miles and CMF. Just arrived home late last night. See you tomorrow. Mike, see you tomorrow, but the same time as usual. Good night, Miles and family. Great live. Many thanks for all you do. See you tomorrow. Ian, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Thanks again, Miles. Hope you're feeling better. Have a good night. And CMF and day CMF. Let's go. Ghost Spawner. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. I will be seeing everybody tomorrow. Nice one, Miles. Let's go, Zach. See you tomorrow, but same time as usual as well. I'll be seeing everybody tomorrow. Same timing as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you're around the world. Good night, Miles and CMF. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow as well, Orphan. I'll see everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual for episode 251. See everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. Thanks so much to everyone for all the likes, comments, shares, and retweets on X and on YouTube. See everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you're around the world. CMF, see you tomorrow, same time as usual, 11:25 p.m. UK time onwards for episode 251. See you tomorrow, everyone.